dead in 4 hours. I can't tell you how it's going to happen. There's some sort of horrible disease that's going to afflict you in 4 hours. It'll happen very quickly, and you're just going to drop dead. You feel fine right now, but it's all going to be over in 4 hours. Those are going to be the longest 4 hours of your life. Think for a moment what's going to run through your head during your last 4 hours on this planet. With a little luck, you're going to have fond memories of places that you've gone, things that you've done, and people that you've met along the way. However, I would suspect that at least some of that time will be spent thinking about the things that you didn't do, thinking about the paths that you didn't take. There will be regrets. I think if you could take all of those regrets and look for a common thread that runs through all of them, and all of them for all of us, you would find one common factor. There's not enough fun in your life. And if you think about it, we don't really think very much about the word fun, do we? We sort of disparage it. I'm a working professional. I'm in a committed relationship. I have children. Nowhere in any of those major life activities does the word fun show up, does it? It's almost a, if I have some extra time, if I can find a place to fit it in, maybe I'll have fun on Wednesday. I've got 15 minutes that aren't really penciled in yet. And perhaps if this is going to be one of our life's major regrets, we need to do something about this. The interesting thing about fun is that it doesn't just happen. You have to schedule fun. Already I can feel your pushback. Already I can hear you saying, look, Jim, in my life, fun is spontaneous. Fun just happens. Scheduling fun, I mean, goodness gracious, that doesn't really seem the way I choose to live my life. Fine. But let's go back and take a look at your life. How much fun are you really having? If you're not having enough fun, then what we need to do is find a way to work fun into your life. And it turns out that you are correct. Fun is a fairly spontaneous thing. But a campfire is a spontaneous thing also. But before you can have a campfire, you have to build a fire. You have to get the kindling, you have to get the spark, and then the campfire happens. Same thing with fun. You have to set up the situation in which you're going to have fun, and then fun, with a little luck, will actually happen. Now, in our life, what is fun? Well, fun is something that we enjoy doing. It's an activity that you do once, do again, do again, do again, and you enjoy doing it. You anticipate doing it. You look forward to doing it, and that is fun for you to do. Sounds like a good thing. We actually have a word for this. We call that type of activity a hobby. All right? My question to you today is, do you have a hobby? Now, if you have a hobby, you probably have already thought of it. If you don't have a hobby, nothing came to mind. Even worse, if you're sitting there thinking, I might have a hobby, let me think about it. The answer to that is you don't have a hobby. If you didn't think about it right off the bat, you do not have a hobby. And that's a hole in your life. Now, hobbies have 4 characteristics. The first is that you have to enjoy your hobby. Case in point, I have friends who play golf, and they hate it. If you're going to play golf, you have to get up early on a weekend morning, which I hate, by the way. Then you have to be willing to spend the better part of one of the few days a week that you have off standing in the blazing sun with a group of people that you may or may not enjoy spending time with, trying to get a little white ball into holes in the minimum number of strokes. Now, if this is something you enjoy, fantastic. If it's something you don't enjoy, you're in for one very long day. So something to consider there. So that's the first thing. You have to enjoy it. Secondly, your hobby has to be different from what you spend your days doing normally. If you spend your day writing computer code, don't even try and tell me that your hobby is writing computer code. And the reason is because if your hobby isn't dramatically different from how you spend your day, you're not going to be able to tell where one world ends and the other world begins. So if you spend your life writing code and your hobby is volleyball, fantastic. If you spend your time fighting fires and your hobby is growing plants, fantastic. Those are completely different worlds. It passed the hobby test. The third characteristic of a hobby is that it has to be totally engrossing. When you're involved in your hobby, it has to consume you. You have to forget about time. You have to be able to dive into it and become one with it. If you're floating on the surface going, well, I got another 10 minutes and I'll be able to move on to something else, then it's not really a hobby. It's just an activity. Your fourth characteristic of a hobby is that it has to be demanding. You may enjoy stacking boxes. You may like spending time stacking boxes. But you know, after a little while, you're going to be really good at stacking boxes. It's not that hard to do. A hobby has to be challenging. It has to be something that you can work at it, and you continue to discover small nuances, things you didn't know, things you get better at. Your skill set has to continuously develop over time. Selecting a hobby is going to require a time commitment on your part. It's like getting a pet. You go to the store, you get the pet, you bring it home, and you're done with it. Oh no. It's just starting then, right? A pet has to be cared after, has to be fed, has to be walked. You have to take care of a pet, right? Same thing with a hobby. Selecting a hobby is a commitment on your part to spending time with your hobby. Just like a pet, it needs care and feeding in order to survive. So back to my original premise. Good news, you're not going to die in 4 hours. With a little luck, just like me, you'll die quietly in your sleep on your 120th birthday. Actually, at the end of the birthday, because you really want to celebrate that birthday, okay? So you've got a long time to go. Congratulations. But it's how you fill that time that matters. Remember, when we're all leaving this life and walking forward into that bright light, the question is, will you be dragging your feet, turning around and looking behind you, regretting the fun that you did not have? Or will you be walking confidently into light, knowing that you had as much fun as anybody possibly could? Mr. Toastmaster.
Jim?